So today we're going to look at delegated legislation. We're going to define the term. We're going to look at the types. We're going to see the merits and demerits of delegated legislation and also the process of controlling it. Because it's very important that it must be controlled. Otherwise, it can be abused. So the idea of delegated legislation simply means, literally, delegating, assigning the powers to make law to a non-legislative body, right? So legislation, the organ of government that's in charge of making the law is the legislator, is the legislative organ of government, right? We know that already. So when we say delegate, we're now assigning that power to another institution to make laws on behalf of the lawmaking body. There may be reasons where this thing is going to be very, very necessary, especially in situations where nobody was anticipating things to come out of. For example, when we talked about when we experienced the COVID-19 pandemic, many of us had never experienced in our lifetime before. So when this thing came up, there's nothing we could do about it. The lawmakers couldn't handle it. So the best bet was to assign the powers of making law to an institution that understands this problem and know how to lead us out of it. That's basically what the idea looks like. So it says, defined as rules or laws, rules and regulations made by other bodies or persons other than the legislator. But such laws are sanctioned or approved by the legislator, right? So these are rules, these are laws made by, let's say, the Ministry of Health. But these laws are sanctioned and approved by the lawmaking body in the country, right? So the idea is that the society has gone complex. Art of governing is complex as well. So we have to wake up to that situation and prep ourselves to be able to handle it. That is the idea of delegated legislation. So let's say there's a tsunami in Lagos. Most of our lawmakers are not familiar with the term tsunami or the nitty-gritty of it. But if you give it to the Ministry of Environment or the ministry that's close to handling the situation, they will be in the better position to handle such situation because they know what it is. They have the right people who are equipped to handle the situation. So this is done to make the law-making process easy, right? And to make it easy for the legislator to focus on things that matters, while the complex ones is assigned to those who can take care of it. So let's look at reasons for delegated legislature. Number one, to reduce the workload of the lawmakers. Very important, to reduce their workload, right? So that they can focus on things that matters and counts. So it's also used to facilitate the lawmaking process, right? To make it easy, make it bearable. Now, due to the technical nature of some legislature, it has to pass, we have to pass them to the hands to experts so that they have the best ideas, the best knowledge to handle the situation. Another reason is because the complicated nature and growth of government activities. We just say that. So we require those who are in the know to handle such situation. Now, the fifth one says it is used to avoid rigidity. It is very important that government is flexible so that the government can meet different situations and respond to them accordingly, right? If they are rigid, it's going to affect the way they handle situations and going to affect you and I who are underneath the sphere and protection of the government, right? There are some situations where government knows that they don't have what it takes. So if they know, if they have the right people, the right ministry, the right working force, they assign those issues to them so that they can handle it. See, this means that it makes it easy for government to handle unforeseen issues, contingent matters, issues that we never planned for, that came out of the blues, but we have to handle it. So because we never planned for it, it's something you have to consult those who are in the know, right? Let's say there's another virus worse than COVID-19. You don't have to tell a banker to go and fix it, or a banker who has retired from banking and is now working in the lawmaking house to go fix it. But you can call someone in the Ministry of Health a medical doctor in that field who must have studied it, know about diseases, to look into it and give you ideas on how to work out of that situation. So what are the types of delegated legislation? The first one is order in council. These are proclamations made by kings or queens, and they have the full backing of the law. Very important. Then bylaws. These are laws made by the local government, public corporations, and ministries. Right? Take note of this one. Provisional orders. This is the type of law given to a minister to run his ministry. Right? Now, however, this type of laws are subject to confirmation by the parliament, but it's the power given to a minister to run his ministry as he deems fit. Now, statutory instruments are laws made by government department. Take note of this. Now, don't forget that each government department is run by a minister. So, in other words, it's a law made by government ministers in their areas of responsibility. So the Ministry of Health can wake up one day based on what they say around and say nobody should smoke cigarettes in public places. So the Ministry of Health has made a law in the area of their responsibility, and most often we regard them as regulations, and they are used to obtain the law, to update the law. So if the law has been saying do not smoke in public places, and they discover that there's an increase in those suffering from, let's say, lung cancer, they may have to go further and make more laws in this regard. Right? So they may now say no more smoking in public places. They will identify what public places are. So these are what we call statutory instruments. Right? So if you go further here, it says it's a type of legislation which allows the provision of an act to be changed. So it allows for a rule that has been made by the Act of Parliament to be changed without the Parliament having to pass a new act. Right? So it's a clear point. Now, special procedure orders. In this case, ministers make law and present to the parliament. Now, these laws are left in the public domain for at least 14 days so that they would know, the lawmaking organ of government will know whether there will be any petition against such law from the public. And if there is none, this law can fully be promulgated. Now, what are the gains? It is time saving on part of the lawmakers, and is suitable for handling emergency periods. Fantastic, suitable. Now, experts are given the capacity to make laws, and when they make these laws, it is credible because it is somebody who's in the know that's making these laws, right? So it makes the organ of the legislature flexible. They can adapt to situations and handle it. It conforms to local needs. It is easy to understand because those who are making the laws are experts in those fields. So you can easily comprehend what they are saying, right? It reduces the pressure, the workload on the parliament. It brings government nearer to the people because people now feel that this requisite ministry is making the right decision for them. A public corporation in the rural area can decide to make a decision that benefits its clients in that area alone. So the government is closer to the people. The people now feel that the government can hear them, that the government listens to their complaints. So it saves huge costs in the process of making law. What are the demerits? It violates the principle of rule of law, which lays emphasis on freedom of the citizens. Now, when all these ministries come up with laws, most often these laws may impede on the freedom, fundamental human right of the people, right? So it can. That's what I'm trying to say here. That this it violates the principle of the rule of law, right? That the law is above every other person, right? But now you're now trying to say that these institutions can make laws at will, can set up procedures and policies that's going to govern our affairs. We must abide by it. Now, the numerous laws made by these bodies at times are not properly publicized. So you may not know and you will fall short of one because there are a lot of them. So it violates the principle of separation of power, which says that power should be shared between the organs of government. Now you're having a body that is not even an organ of government making law, right? So the department involved in lawmaking may abuse the power given to them, which is normal. right? Normal. It can be abused. Now, the executive may tend to grow more powerful than the legislature because most of the ministries we are talking about belong to the executive organ of government. Now, how do we control this delegated legislation? By parliamentary control. The prime minister should have the power to summon any minister who's not living up to expectation and grill them, right? Now, the judiciary can also look into the issues of delegated legislation, and if the laws made are not in accordance with the law of the land, they can scrap it. Public opinion also can be used to checkmate delegated legislation, right? Whatever law is made must be made in view to assist the people, the public, right? So the next one is the press. We regard the press as the watchdog of democracy or whatsoever it is, and they can serve as watchdogs and help review help review some of these delegated legislations we come across on day-to-day basis. Now, laws made by any public corporation are under the control of the minister in charge of that corporation. The minister has the power to dissolve the board of directors in his corporation if they are not doing well at all. So, right, let me just stop here a bit. If you have any question, put it in the comment section. I'm going to be there to help you out to fix it.